Okay, you know what needs? Let's just will needs.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'll just start now. I'll just wait for a couple of minutes, but we may as well just do a little bit of a begin, because people are got some people far away. Okay, a little bit away, but it's lovely to see everybody. I don't know where the time has actually gone to, but I'm just going to open it. But it's gone, and it's Thursday again, and I'm usually saying, well, it's Erev Shabbos again. We're just going to hope that Aidel gets out of her traffic jam. And I'm thinking, like, what can you be feeling like when you're actually stuck in a traffic jam and you're supposed to be somewhere else? You know that feeling? I don't know if it's ever happened to anybody else before, but it certainly has happened to me. And, you know, there's some things that are just totally out of our hands. So firstly, good Erev Shabbos, good Chodesh, good Chodesh. We're just at the beginning of our beautiful month of Shvat, which is always a pleasure. And tomorrow, well, later tonight and tomorrow is Holocaust Memorial Day. And I really today had the absolute merit of spending a little bit of time with our wonderful Lily Ebbett at Hasmonean Girls School. And the incredible thing is there's a teacher from Coptal Girls School, a non-Jewish girls' school, that's not exactly the calmest and love the girls that much. They brought from the school 20 young women, year 9, that's 16-year-olds, to actually come and meet and see and listen and hear Lily. And then I actually heard after that, you know, that last week there was unfortunately a bit of an incident, and they actually had to call the police because of anti-Semitic behavior. And I thought to myself, you know, what better person would there really have been than having Lily there just to talk about how important it is just to be kind, just to be good, and just to let go, and just to make this world really a better place. And I think that is actually something which is really quite incredible. And I just think that while we're here and the things that we can do, let's just be conscious and think about tonight, especially, that we should learn in the Zechus of all of those who gave their lives, who really did so much for all of us, that we could actually all be here. Tomorrow, I'm actually going again with Lily MBE, I should say Lily Ebbett MBE, to JFS. And the truth is, most of the kids there are actually that they're bringing in are not Jewish. And really what we want to be able to do is the education that shows people that we don't respond the way we're treated. We respond with love and kindness and friendship, and making sure that we have the ability to make this world a much better place to be. And in this month of Shvat, we learn about the acronym of Shvat being Shir Besorot Tovot. And certainly for us this week was a Besorot Tova, good, beautiful, good tidings, but welcoming a new grandchild called Yisrael into the world, a great grandchild for my mom and David. And what more beautiful way can we then to perpetuate and to do and to just continuing living with Torah in our lives. And one of the things that we're going to be doing during this month of Shvat, and Shvat is the month where the bucket, the dli, is actually the mazal sign, the sign of the what's it called? The astral sign for this month is the bucket. And really what we're doing here is filling our buckets so that we can give out. And with that, we have Rebbetzin Aidel Treblow, who has come to help us to fill our buckets in this wonderful, awesome, fantastic week of Parshat Bo and leaving Mitzrayim. And I should have had with me, but my tambourine's just a tiny little bit high up there. And we have on my tambourine, which is ready, I have two of them, Ani Ma'amin Be'emuna Shelema B'Vias HaMashiach and Ein Od Milvado. That's what we live with. Hashem can do anything and everything, and we're waiting for Mashiach. So please God, that should be something that will be there with us. And Rebbetzin Treblow, you were taken out of traffic. And
Baruch Hashem, you stole my punchline. You stole my punchline. I do not have to skip this share now. You took my brilliant punchline. I've got half an hour share, and you got to just set the punchline. Like, can we just stop now?
No, we look forward to learning.
Do you know, traffic is the funniest thing. You sometimes wonder what people are thinking. You know, like I was driving, and there's one of these. There was like a road delay. So the first thing I was wondering what they were thinking is what occurred to anybody to block a road up here with diggers and another company to block a road down there with diggers. There's only one wincey-pincy road in the middle for everybody to try and get. And that's the one thing I wondered about. And the other time I wondered.
It actually wasn't them. Can I just remind you, it wasn't actually them.
Oh, wait. It gets better because Hashem needed me to know this. Okay, because this is what I sometimes wonder what anyone, this is the bit that gets me. This is the bit that gets me is the decisions people make. When you have traffic hit, cars parked here. And I don't know if anyone's from Manchester, you know, those little diddy roads around the back of Heaton Park, right? So you have cars parked here and cars parked there. So you can only get one car up at a time. There's a train of cars coming like this and a car's like that. So there's the people who think they are logical. We're going to get to this. It's very, very kind of Hashem to put this in because I'm thinking, how am I going to start my share? And he very kindly gave me a start. So that's really, really nice. So you've got these, and there's two things. One, two think, okay, look, I just stop and pull in, those cars will go past and then I can go forward. And then there's the ones who just figure, if I just keep going forward, then I don't know, it's just going to happen because I need it to happen and because I want it to happen. So it's going to happen. It's really interesting why we do what we do. Why do we think what we think? You know, it fascinates me. And it's always me who's right. Okay, let's just get this straight. So if I'm the one who's going forward, then I'm right. And if it's that, you know, okay. But it did interest me because it's coming up a lot today. I'm going to look at 3 parashas at once, ladies, if that's okay. But it interests me. What on earth was Paroh thinking? Like, what was he thinking? This is the ruler. You know, I thought about this and I was going to give this analogy. And then I thought it's not a good analogy. I was going to say, you know, it's like this is the ruler of the known world. And in the parashas that we've been looking at a couple of weeks ago, last week, this week, next week, he's just acting instinctively, narcissistically. And I was going to say, gosh, it's like the president of the United States making decisions that are irrational and just sticking to them and not moving. Then I thought I better not say that because some of you might think that's true. But, you know, like the concept, what was he thinking? You know, it's very interesting because we do these parashas a lot. We know them. We say bits of them in davening. You know, we have to remember about going out of Egypt. We have to, we say it in Haggadah, right? And then we lane. It would take a lot of parashas to get through it. You know, like from sort of the end of Shemais until we get out of Yom Suf, it's only a year, but it takes 4 parashas, right? And the whole of the parasha of Bereshis is 1,000 years. So we spend a lot of time on it. Massive difference between what we say in the Haggadah and these parashas. In the Haggadah, it's all about, you know, we'll do this Pesach time, how we tell the story of going out of Mitzrayim. But these parashas, this Chumash, and I'm going to apologize because I came flying in, ladies. I don't have all my sources in front of me. You might have to wait for me occasionally. But in these parashas, it's a lot of drama. What is Moshe Rabbeinu thinking? Okay, we can learn from that. We get that. Okay, what is Aaron thinking? What are the people of Klal Yisrael thinking? What are the Mitzrim thinking? What is Paroh thinking? There's a lot of sort of like kind of this psychology, and you have to wonder. The Mefarshim do ask. You know, the Torah is very, 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 very clear about being concise. Why didn't Hashem summarize the whole thing? What is it that we have to get from all this detail about who's doing what and who says what to whom and what's going on? Okay, so let's have a little bit of a look. We're not going to do all of this. And again, like I said, I'm going to kind of apologize slightly because I came flying in. But another thing you might want to think about is, why do we need to know what Paroh is thinking? And even Bnei Yisrael, we know they don't want to listen to Moshe Rabbeinu. They're not sure it's going to work. There's a lot we have to learn. Now, the easy way out is to say, well, you have to learn from Paroh what not to do. We're not like Paroh. We're really cool, and Paroh was rubbish. But there's a little bit of Paroh in everybody. And it's like this little bit of Moshe Rabbeinu in everybody. So what we do when we're looking at all of these is not just what not to do, but let's look a little deeper. So what we're going to do, a little differently to I do usually, is we'll look at the storyline kind of as we know it. And we're going to see in the time allowed how much deeper we can get, but still within the same sequence of events. So if at any point you need to go and, turn your kettle on or your cholent off, then just, that's fine. Go ahead and do it. Okay. So very interesting concept. The Midrash tells us that Paroh was kind of tiny. He was about a foot tall. Now, there's a difference of opinions. Was he actually pretty tiny? And I've for his Fachim tall, or was that just his own self-image? But there is definitely something about all of us that sees ourselves as not very big and not very great and not very able to move fast. So we can work on that basis. Let's have a look what happens. Okay, so we learn in, say, the parasha of Shemais, what's going on for the Jewish people. They're enslaved, they're in exile, etc., etc., etc. Moshe Rabbeinu goes to Paroh. Actually, Hashem says to him, go to Paroh. And Moshe says, I'm going to go to the Jewish people first. Okay, so if Mattis points out, Moshe wants to lead this sort of popular movement. Come on, we're going to rise up against Paroh. The Jewish people, Bnei Yisrael, are so depressed and so used to slavery, they can't do that. So in fact, by the time he gets to the gates of Paroh's palace, he looks behind him and like they've all gone. Well, most of them have gone, right? He's stuck there by himself. And Paroh, true to form, like we know, refuses to listen. I'm going to see if I can find a passage for you quickly, because it's really not a good thing to talk to Paroh without that. Right, Paroh says to him, you're going to have to get this straight. Paroh basically says I am not going to be listening. I'm not going to be listening to Hashem. He said, we'll get to it later. He says to him, who is Hashem that I have to listen to him? Okay, who is this guy? Me Hashem asher eshma b'kailei. Right, I'm not going to listen to him. La yadati, yes Hashem. I don't know Hashem, and I'm not going to send the Jewish people out. Moshe Rabbeinu goes to Hashem and says, hello, you've set me up for a fool. Why did you send me on this mission? You knew Paroh wasn't going to listen. Well, like, what happened? And Hashem, beginning of Parshas Va'era, we're skating through this, but I wanted to try and remember the Pesukim, okay? Beginning of Parshas Va'era, Hashem seems to be kind of a bit annoyed with Moshe Rabbeinu. He says, I'm going to show you, and he says, I appeared to your fathers, right? Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and I promised them that I would take the people out of Mitzrayim. So don't go complaining now. They didn't complain. Why are you complaining? Very interesting question. We'll get back to it. All right. He says, I appeared to their fathers. I told them this. I told them I was going to make a covenant with them. Right. It's called a bris. Right. I'm going to take you out of Mitzrayim to do that. Why? We want to know, why is Hashem mentioning this bris, this covenant with the forefathers there? Right. One of the ways we can understand it is like this. Okay. Rashi says to us like this. Rashi says, I promised the Avos that I would judge Paroh. And therefore, I can't just smash him and take you out. Right? It would have been quick. The whole point of the Makkah, the plagues and everything takes about a year. That's quite a long time, right? This is Hashem. He's cool. Hashem could do anything. We just said that. Rabbi Zintav just said that, right? Hashem could do anything. Why didn't he just say, right, okay, smash them all out, one big plague, get rid of them, nuke the whole lot and take the Jewish people out? But he goes through this whole process of one plague after another. Why? Okay, we're going to get to this because there's massive, massive difference between judgment and punishment. Huge. It might look the same, right? If you have if you have a kid who does something naughty and they get some kind of a consequence from a parent, it might look like the same thing either way, but there's a massive, massive big difference. Okay, the difference is something like this. If it's just a consequence, a punishment, what's Paroh going to learn? Paroh's going to learn that their God's bigger than my God. Might is still right. Whoever's stronger wins. Whoever's got strongest God wins. But he hasn't really learned anything. And all that would happen, Paroh figures, is that if I get a stronger God, then I'm going to win. And in fact, we do see that. The Jewish people got to Yam Suf. It looked like they were trapped. There was an idol on the seashore called Baal Zephon, and Paroh thinks, oh, wow, my God is stronger after all. And off he comes charging after us. He hasn't quite got it. The difference, that's one way. That's what look at. Punishment is about bang, right? We've got you. That's not what Hashem wanted Paroh to see. And it's not what he wanted us to see. What Hashem wanted us to see is that there's a lesson. There's a concept. When something looks like it's negative or it's against us or it's hurtful, there's something we're supposed to be learning from it. I'm not going to go too much into this because it's not always for us to tell other people what they're supposed to be learning, and I don't want to end up going on down that road. But as a concept, that's where we're going. Yeah, that Hashem doesn't want Paroh to think that everything is just random and whoever has the stronger muscles or the stronger gods or the stronger weapons gets to have what they want. That's not the way it works. The works is nothing's random, everything happens, and we're supposed to be learning from it. And therefore, Hashem says, I am going to bring a series of plagues upon Paroh. And he uses the word I'm going to he says ilalti, which kind of means like to toy, like when you sort of play with your spinach because you don't want it, and I sort of push it around your plate a little bit. Assume you all do eat spinach, it's very healthy, but let's say you don't, right? And you're going to push it around your plate and you kind of not eat it. It's that kind of thing. I'm not going to just do it all at once. I'm going to sort of move it around a little bit. Why? That sounds a bit mean. Why would Hashem want to do that? Hashem isn't mean. He says, because I want him to teach him something. He says, hirbesi es isai, right? Which there's two ways we can translate it. Today, for now, I'm going to increase my wonders. So I'm going to have extra plagues so that Paroh, and so in different places, he says, Klal Yisrael are going to know that I'm Hashem. There's something that's got to happen, a change in consciousness. I think they call it in the 70s, right? The God consciousness. They're going to change the way we look at things through looking at what is going on. And one of the things we'll see is Klal Yisrael get it, and it takes Paroh far too long to work out what it is that Hashem wants him to learn. Okay, and that's when we're going to look at that. We're also going to look at the fact that Hashem says, I'm going to harden Paroh's heart. You might have heard that that's quite a difficult thing. People bring it up a lot. How can Hashem harden Paroh's heart? What happened to his free will? We're going to have a look at that. So we're going to have this series of things that are going to happen. We're going to look at, again, what was Paroh thinking? What was this heart hardening? What was going on inside his brain? He got himself into a real pickle, Paroh. You got to kind of feel sorry for him. He got himself in a position where he couldn't, he was, that sort of pride thing where you put yourself in a position and you can't really back out of it because you're going to look really stupid. But then if you do what you're told, you're also going to stupid. He gets himself into a real pickle. Poor old Paroh. Feel very sorry for him. Not that sorry, but kind of sorry. Okay, so let's have a look what happens. Hashem is bringing in a set of plagues starting from, yes, very much. Yeah, he's got him. So absolutely. That's a really, really good example. Yeah, I was talking about the presidents of the states, but Putin's a really good example. Thank you. Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Yeah, that kind of thing. You get yourself into a corner because he's made such a big statement. We're going to see what happens, that he kind of, whatever he does, with Mattis Weinberg points out, whatever he does at a certain point about plague number 6 or 7, he's stuck. Okay. I'm not going to go into all the plagues in detail. I'm sure you've heard it before, but let's go quickly. Okay, so the plagues are divided into 3 sets, right? 3, 3, and 4. Okay, the first 3 are the blood, the frogs, and the lice, right? So next ones are the animals, the plague of the animals and the boils. And the third ones are the hail, the locusts, the darkness, and the death of the firstborn. There's different ways of understanding what it was they were supposed to teach us. One understanding from the Abarbanel, which we're going to go with today, is like this. The first 3 plagues, blood, frogs, and lice, are about Hashem's power in all areas of nature. Everything, right? From the river that they used to pray to the earth, the frogs, the animals. That's just about really Hashem can do anything. By the time you get to the end of the 3rd plague, even Paroh's magicians and wizards and whatever else it is are saying, gosh, we can't do that. That's the first one. And so far, up to those 3, Paroh says, I'm not listening. He hardens his own heart. He is just not going to listen. And that is possibly because that's what he thought all along. He was all the time thinking about just who's more powerful. Next slide is a bit more complicated. With the Arayv, the wild animals, the plague, and the Shchin, at that point, there's a very, very clear differentiation that was not explainable any other way than the fact that Hashem knows exactly who is who. So the wild animals only went for the mitzvah. Not only that, but there was a very clear understanding. If I'm not going to go into details, whatever crime or difficult, horrible things an Egyptian had done, the wild animal that would be attacking them would exactly fit that. Okay, it was very, very pointed. Only in Egyptian areas. The plague again only had the plague of animals only happened to the Egyptian farm animals. But what's interesting is the Jewish-owned animals didn't even die of old age. Nothing. If they'd been ill anyway, Hashem kept them going for another week because he wanted to show I Hashem can differentiate between one another. So again, it's not just raw power, it's being able to say Hashem knows what he's doing. He knows what each and every person is doing, each and every animal is doing. It's not just a raw power, it's not like a volcano or a tornado. If you're there, it's stuck. Hashem really does understand and know and calculate everything precisely. The last lot of plagues, and I'm skating through this, but I want to sort of get to the good bit, right? The good bit. The last lot of plagues are impossible. Why are they impossible? Well, the hail involves ice and fire together. The locusts, I wasn't sure about this one, but I asked my husband, who told me that the Pasuk tells us that all the locusts left Mitzrayim. Now, here's the thing. Some of the locusts, when the Egyptian caught them, had been pickled. You might have seen a flying locust. Have you ever seen a flying pickled locust? I bet you haven't, nor have I. I wouldn't want to see a flying. Okay, so these are the impossible things. Locusts that are dead and pickled are flying, okay? Chayshach, a darkness that is only in one place but not another and is touchable. And of course, the death of the firstborn. So the last set of plagues should be clinching it for anybody that Hashem is not only is very powerful, not only differentiates between one person and another, but can change anything change anything, even the laws of nature, according to what people do. Okay, here's what's interesting. As we go along through the plagues, the first chunk of plagues, Paroh says Paroh doesn't listen, Paroh doesn't listen, Paroh hardens his heart and he doesn't listen, Paroh hardens his heart and he doesn't listen. As we get a little bit past halfway mark, right, as we get to plagues number 6 and 7, something changes. One of the things that changes is Paroh all of a sudden thinks he's going to listen. He calls Moshe and Aaron and he says something very interesting. Just bear with me, I want to find it. Breathe, have a cup of coffee. He says, I'll find it for you. Now the head is falling. And Paroh calls Moshe and Aaron after the hail. Okay, so we're past halfway. We're seeing the power of Hashem, which is not like any other power. And Paroh calls to Moshe and Aaron, and he says to them, Chatasi hapam, I've sinned this time. Watch for this time. Hashem tzaddik, Hashem is righteous, ba'ani harashaim. We are the baddies. And he goes and asks Moshe Rabbeinu to pray to Paroh. Now that to Hashem. Now that looks really good, right? He's kind of got it. He's okay now. He has done teshuvah. Except that he said hapa'am this time. So he hasn't quite got it yet. And we all do this. Well, I mean, I do this, right? How many times you say sorry just because you want someone else to stop having a go at you? You don't really mean it, right? It's just it's kind of like, like with toddlers, right? They run, they're sort of, they'll run into this, or they'll do something and they say, I'm sorry. But the next time around, they're not going to extrapolate what was this time and what was last time, right? Paroh is hard at this point. Paroh is saying Hashem is a tzaddik, is righteous, and we have learned, but he hasn't learned anything because he can't sustain it. You know what it's like? We're just thinking, my kids have got this thing. I thought it was just me. It's every Jewish mother, right? You have, or I know, maybe it's every mother, right? The one time you're going to really, really, really have a go at trying to do something dangerous, right? Stand thing, the kid runs into the street, the mother schleps this kid back. Depending on your family lifestyle, you might give them a little smack on their hands, but the mother goes on and on and on and on and on at this kid until this kid is crying because they have to know you must not go in the road, right? Then what happens? Because she's a Jewish mother, the kid's crying. The kid really knows now that mommy doesn't let you go in the road, right? So the mother feels terrible, so she goes to get them an ice cream. In fact, if you're a really clever kid, like many kids are, if you want an ice cream, what you do is make for the road. Your mother will grab you, yell, and then go and get you an ice cream because she feels bad. I don't know why, but we all do it, right? So that is so this is like this toddler, right? Paroh knows if he goes to the road, he'll get a smack, but what he can't get is what if he does something else that Hashem doesn't like? He still hasn't or won't or doesn't want to move away from this, I'm not going to listen, no. So he'll say sorry now. He'll say, please take away this plague now. But he's not really, really getting it. He's not really ready to accept it's not about power. Right now, says Paroh, I'll say sorry because you're bigger and stronger than me. But that doesn't, but as soon as the bigger and stronger has gone away, I'm going to keep going. Okay. And that this is the point where Hashem helps Paroh harden his heart. Okay. Because he's saying sorry. Now, we can always say you say sorry if you don't mean it. He's saying sorry, but he's not really learning his lesson. Rabbi Jacobson, who's very big into psychology, talks about, this about the structure of your brain. So I'm going to demonstrate. I don't know if you can see my hands. Okay. So your brain has a sort of a structure like that. I'm not very good at this. Okay. Kind of like that. Okay. So this bit is the sort of your basic brain stem, right? This is a very basic version, right? Your brain stem, your basic functions. On top of that, you have your kind of what we call the emotional brain. And around the top of that, we have our cortex, which is the thinking brain. Here's an interesting fact. Teenagers have not, children definitely don't have that, but teenagers are only just starting, you can't even see my hand, sorry, to make the connection between the bit that goes around the outside, the thinking bit, and the emotional bit, which is why teenagers do stupid stuff, right? Because they might appreciate a consequence here, but they can't necessarily do the prefrontal cortex bit, which says, well, this is what happened last time. So maybe I shouldn't do this time, and maybe this is going to happen, and maybe I should plan ahead and realize that all that kind of prefrontal cortex stuff, all that stuff you can't see with this handshake, that all this stuff around here. Paroh is kind of the same. He's been living in his emotional brain. I don't want to let them go. He's not thinking. He doesn't want to really be thinking, because thinking's a bit painful. Because when you think, if you're like Paroh and you've been doing things the same way for a very long time, when you have to think and say, oh, hang on, I think I got that a bit wrong, that's quite painful. So you might want to try and avoid it. So when Hashem is hardening Paroh's heart in that sense, what's going on is Hashem saying, look, if you want to say sorry, if you want to do teshuvah, if you really want to fix it, and we'll get back to fixing things in a minute, you can do that anytime. It is never, ever too late. But if you don't really want to fix it, if you haven't really learned that lesson, then it's not the right time. If you're doing it, it's too fake, it's too all over the place. Okay, that is on a basic level. Okay, basic level, Paroh is not using his thinking. Emotions are great, by the way, but that's not all there is. He's not thinking. He's not looking outside his own particular worldview. So Hashem says, okay, you want to stay in there? I will harden your heart. I will let you stay just with your emotions without thinking, and we'll do it your way. That's on a basic level. Okay, somebody wave at me because it's all very dark on here, so I'm not sure. Right, okay. Too fast, too slow, too okay? Good, thank you. Oh yeah, but you're used to me talking fast. That doesn't count. Anybody else? Somebody else wave. Right, okay. I'm just going to assume you're either with me or you follow me.
Haley said that it was fine, and we trust
her. Great, okay. Right, let's go a little bit deeper. To do it a little bit deeper, I need a bit of an introduction, because so far we've been talking about one Paroh in one country. Ladies, there's a lot of sorts of exile of galus, okay? So you can have a geographical exile. You can just be away from the place you belong. So if, for example, you are outside Eretz Yisrael, even when there was a Beis Hamikdash, you could be said to be in exile because you're not really in the place you belong, right? Okay, you could have a nation exile, right? In that sense, a spiritual nation. We don't have a Beis Hamikdash anymore. We don't have a temple at the moment. So now, even if you are standing in Yerushalayim at the Kaisel, there's a degree to which we are still in Galus, because we don't have that. We don't have that at the moment. We don't have that access to Hashem and his presence in the same way. There's another sort of exile, which is a very personal one, right? Right, the Sfarim talk about Galus HaNefesh, right? And Geula, there's a song we sing Motzei Shabbos and Friday night about redeeming our souls, the redemption, the Galus and the exile of the soul. You can have everything you want, and inside you can still be in Galus. Inside you can still feel like we're detached from Hashem in some way. So just like the Galus, the exile in Egypt was a national exile, and the pasuk tells us that people couldn't even hear that Hashem was going to help us. They were so stuck in their misery and their what's going to happen next and everything's going wrong kind of ness. They couldn't hear that. We can hear that on a personal level. We can be exiled inside ourselves so much, we can't even see the light at the end of the tunnel. So when we're talking about dealing with Paroh and hardening hearts and plagues and all the rest of it, yes, that's true nationally, but it's also true in terms of what do we do for ourselves when we get stuck in these kind of difficult, dark, exiled kind of places, which I think is always nice that we have these parashas in this bit of the winter when it's really dark. I know Representative mentioned Tu B'Shvat and Shvat, which is great, but till you get to Tu B'Shvat, you kind of wonder if it's ever going to be spring again. So this is a really good for these parashas, this bit when it's really dark. Here we go, hold with me. So on the first level, right? On the first level, we said that our aim is to learn that Hashem can do anything, right? That's the hope of those plagues, right? Let's look at it a bit deeper. So this is again from Rabbi Jacobson, and I really hope I've got this right. If I get it wrong, it's not him, it's me. Okay, he quotes Rav Nachum of Chernobyl, and we're going to do a little bit of letters. Okay, so I can't write this down. You'll have to just bear with me a little bit. Okay, go back for me, ladies, a wincy bit into last Sefer, the end of Parasha of the book of Bereshis, the book of Vayechi, and over there we have Yosef, who has two sons who are born in exile, right? Manasseh and Ephraim. And he takes them to Yaakov. And Yaakov says to Yosef, Mi Eila, who are these? Which is very strange because he knew who they were. Okay. And Yosef says, these are the children Asher Nasan li Elokim, the sons that Hashem Elokim gave me, which is also strange because he hasn't answered the question. Yaakov said, who are they? And he says, these are the ones Hashem gave me. Nobody asked who gave them to you. Says Rav Nachum, you have to look at the letters. The letters of me, Eile, are mem, yod, new word, aleph, lamed, hey, right? The word me means who. What's Yaakov Avinu asking? He's saying, who are they? Who do they think they are? Do they still have a sense of self? They've been born in exile. They've been surrounded by everything else. It's not about what they keep, what they don't keep, or they observe, or they don't observe. On the outside, they look like Egyptians, right? They were dressed Egyptian. They had whatever it is. They look like young Egyptian noblemen. Who are they on the inside? Do they know who they are? Yosef says, these are the children of Nasan li Elokim, exactly the same letters as me, Eile, right? So me, Eile is mem, yod, aleph, lamed, hey. And Elokim, exactly the same letters, aleph, lamed, and then we put the hey, and then we put the yud, mem. Same letters, other way around. So they know who they are. They know about Hashem. This word Elokim we'll get back to later. Okay, we'll get back to it a little bit later. They are recognizers of Elokim. Elokim is the name of, there's lots of names of Hashem. It's the name of Hashem that Hashem used when he made the world, right? Bereshis bara Elokim, where Hashem, in the beginning, Hashem made the world. When we're talking about Elokim, it's the name of Hashem where we are recognizing Hashem's power in everything we do now, not removed, not far distant, right now involved in every area of creation. Here's a really interesting thing. The name Elokim is plural. Now, we only have one Hashem, right? So that's the big difference between us and other religions. There's only one God. So how come, you might ask, I would like to know this too, the name of Hashem is plural? More than one reason. One of them is because it's referring to the fact that when you look at the world is a really confusing place. It looks really random. You could be forgiven for thinking that everything's coming from loads of different directions, that there really isn't a pattern to it. It's all bits and bobs, like a kaleidoscope. The name Elokim says that there's Hashem's power, the Elokah, that bit means power, even in the plurals, right? Even in the things that are multiple, even the things that seem that they don't make sense because they're coming from different directions and they're random, that Hashem is in that one too. So it was very interesting. And it's actually very b'shem I got delayed, because while we were delayed, I was driving my daughter and I said, I've got to tell you this. It's a really cool bit of my share. And I started talking and she said, oh, that's really interesting. This is what she said that's interesting. So thank you, my daughter, who I was driving home. Thank you, Hashem, for causing a traffic jam so my daughter could tell me this, right? The name Elokim refers to Hashem's sense of judging, right? It's always used when we're talking about Hashem's judgment. Remember how we said before that Hashem wanted to judge, all right, and teach a lesson, not just, whack him. The name Elokim is plural because judgment can change. There's an infinite number of possibilities to what Hashem is going to send you, depending on what you do next, and depending on how you feel about what you did before. So a person who does teshuvah, a person who says, I really wasn't happy about what happened just now, it's not the end version. You can go back and the whole of the judgment can change. Anything can change, right? I can go back. I can't necessarily do it again. I can wish I could do it again. That's just as good. And I can change that. Hashem can do anything. Hashem's not stuck on a track that, well, you've done this, so you have to have that. Like sometimes in schools, there's these consequences, right? So if you do this, then that happens. If you do that, then that happens. Not how Hashem works. You did this, but that. And what about the other? And you felt sorry about it. And maybe everything changes. Judgment is plural because you can do teshuvah and you can change things. Paroh wouldn't have got that because Paroh did not get Elokim. He didn't understand that concept. He got power, smashed them up. He got an idea of God who's up there and doesn't care. But this idea that if Hashem had let him get away with it, he wouldn't have seen this as, oh, wow, this is Hashem's mercy letting me do teshuvah. He would have seen it as, oh, well, see, I knew Hashem didn't really mean it anyway. He's not that clever anyway. He wouldn't have got it. So he had to go all the way through to the Red Sea where he finally does do teshuvah. But for those of us who, Baruch Hashem, got a bit of a, what do they call it? A spoiler alert. So we know that Hashem is really running the place, okay? We can see that there's this idea of Elokim that whatever it looks like, that doesn't mean that Hashem doesn't know what he's doing. Whatever you go, whatever's happening, Hashem does know what he's doing. So when Yosef said to, we're going to get to it in a minute, don't worry, I haven't forgotten about Mitzrayim. When Yosef said to Yaakov, these are the sons that Elokim gave me, he's saying even in Mitzrayim, even with everything else that's going on, they know who they are and they know how to, they know to recognize Hashem. And at that point, Yaakov takes them on as part of the tribes. And we actually bless the children on Friday night. We use this bracha. They should be like Menashe and Ephraim. Okay. Fast forward. Remember Paroh? Remember he said, I love this bit. Thank you, Rabbi Jacobson. Thank you, Hashem, for letting me see this. This is great. Okay. Remember we said how Paroh said, Mi Hashem she'eshma b'kailei. Who is Hashem that I should listen to his voice, right? Remember the word listen, ladies. That doesn't mean like listen like it goes in one ear and out the other, right? Like when we say Shema Yisrael, it means listen and accept and do something with it. Paroh says, me, that word's me. Who is Hashem? that I should listen to, when I'm recognizing this, I don't see a purpose in any of this. I don't see a purpose in me. When Hashem said, Hirbesi esai, I will increase my miracles, except the word esai, which means miracles, also means letters. What does Hashem do? He says, by the end of this process, you know, it's nice if you get there the nice way, but if you don't, we're going to get there the hard way. But by the end of this process, I'm going to increase my letters. So you are going to stop saying me, the Yud and Mem, and you're going to start saying Elohim, which means you are also going to recognize that Hashem is in everything and everywhere, and he knows what he's doing. Okay? We don't have to go through that. But Ezra's Hashem, we don't have to go through that because we, Baruch Hashem, we know that it's not always easy, right? Let me get this straight, right? It's always very easy when someone else is suffering to say, oh, it's because of this and oh, it's because of that. It's much harder when it's us, right? And actually, we're not supposed to do that. We're not supposed to say, I have got a cold because I spoke Lashon Hara. I can say, I have a sore throat and therefore I'm going to take on not to speak Lashon Hara. But even at this level, it's not up to us to say this happens because, but it is up to us to say, well, if I'm in this mess, let me see what I can get out of it. Let me see how I can build on that. You know, and we see that a lot. You see people who've suffered sort of tragedies and they'll go off and sort of start a charity or do whatever it is. Chas v'shalom, we shouldn't have to be in that situation. We can do it for whatever we're in. This has happened. What am I going to do with it? This has happened. What am I going to do with it? And by the way, you can do that for the good stuff too. You don't have to wait till chas v'shalom something goes that you don't like. This has happened and it's wonderful and it's amazing and I'm going to build on that and I'm going to grow and I'm going to recognize it's coming from Hashem. And the bus did actually come on time and thank you very much, Hashem. And I did actually finally get my car down the road and around all those little cars. Thank you very much, Baruch Hashem. I'm going to learn from it and I'm going to pull it all together. And here's the gorgeous one. Here we go. Right. Okay. So we talked about our national galus and our personal galus, right? And I'm bang on time. I'm very proud of myself today. Okay, here we go. There are 3 words in Hebrew that are really, really similar. And they kind of have different meaning. Well, there's 3 of them. The two on each end are totally dissimilar, and there's one in the middle that kind of pulls them together. The first one is the word for exile, which is Gaila. Gimel, Vav, Lamed. This is another Rabbi Jacobson. So if you heard the share as well, I'm very sorry. Right, no, Gimel, Vav, Lamed, which means exile. Okay. The next word along is revelation, which is Giloi. It's exactly the same letters, except that the Hey is swapped for a yud. Now, this is not the bit he said, I'm sticking it in there, but here we go. The Hey is swapped for a yud. Now, I don't know how you are with Hebrew writing, but a Hey is actually not swapped for a yud. A Hey is a yud inside a dalad. So I'm you probably can't see it on there because I'm wiggling my hands around. But if you would draw a letter Hey, you would have a letter dalad, which is a 4, which is like the 4 corners of the earth, the physical world that we're seeing around us, with a yud in the middle, meaning what? When I am, because we all are in some level or other, we're in those difficult places that sometimes we all end up in, that exile. So it could be personal, it could be national, whatever it is, my own stuff. When I'm in that exile, Hashem hasn't gone. That revelation, that Gimel Lamed Vav Yud is still there. There is still that revelation, but the Yud is hidden inside the Daled. It's hidden inside the world. I have to make a lot more effort to find it. Right? When there's prophets and when there's Nebuah and when everything's wonderful, then you have a direct revelation of Hashem. Right now, it's a little bit harder, but it's still there. That Yud of Hashem is still there, but I have to look for it inside the Hey. I have to do quite a lot of work in recognizing that Elohim, that whatever is going on, Hashem knows what he's doing. And sometimes I can't necessarily see it. Sometimes I just have to trust it. Sometimes I just have to believe it. Here it comes. I love this one. I'm very glad we're ending on this one. Okay. In Galus, we're looking for that revelation when it's going wrong, right? Sometimes we feel like Paroh, who was only, you can't see me over here, like about a foot off the ground. We feel like everything's pulling us down. We feel like everything's coming from everywhere. We go ahead and we look for that Yud in the Hey, right? We look for that revelation inside of whatever's going on for us. And sometimes we can't, and sometimes we have to trust it's there. Right, so here we go. Right, the word for Galus, we said for Exodus, it is Gimel Lamed Vav Hey. We're going to add a letter. We're going to add the first letter, the letter that means number 1, okay? We're going to let, a letter, actually interesting, if you draw the letters, it's 2 Yud stuck together, okay? A letter number 1 is the first letter of the Aseret Zebras, where Hashem says, I am Hashem, your God, Hashem Elokecha, Hashem, who holds on to everything. We stick in an Aleph in the middle of, in the middle of Gimel, Vav, Lamed, and Hey, we get Gimel, Aleph, Vav, Lamed, Hey. When we stick that Aleph, and it is hard. It is really, really hard. I'm not saying this because it's so easy. It is hard and we can do it. When we stick that Aleph in the middle of the word Gaila, we get the words Geula. We get the word redemption, which tells us a lot of things. But one of the things that means a lot to me is You don't have to hang, I mean, you do hang around waiting for Mashiach to come, but a personal geula is in our hands. It's the way we get from this difficult places and the personal exile, how we're feeling with ourselves, is to make an effort. And it really, really is an effort. I'm not downplaying this at all. We make that effort to find that Allah. We make that effort to find that Elohim. We make that effort. And it's hard to see, I don't know what's happening. And yes, it looks random. And yes, I don't get why this has to happen like this. And yes, I don't get this. I told you I was going to say this. Why the digging guy has to do the thing up there and the other digging guy has to do the thing down there. I don't get that, but I totally, utterly am trying very, very hard to get to the point where I know 100% that it's all coming from one place. It's all coming from Hashem. And I'm knowing that Hashem really, really does know what he's doing. And it's Hashem that gets us from our exile through the middle with exile into our geula, into our redemption. So there we are. There's our spot. There's our punchline. We got it exactly the same, didn't we? Everything's coming from the right place. Have a wonderful Shabbos, ladies.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So now I'm quickly going to just get my dough, because that's also going to be part of our always knowing that this is the thing that's going to keep us going and certainly going to keep us women going. And those ladies that were with me in Israel, you should have your tambourines there ready to be playing. So I haven't seen that. Aviva, where's your tambourine? I'm just going to quickly get my dough and I'll be with you in a sec. Here. Okay. Both bags. There you go. Oh, there's the tambourine. However, you know what? I'm actually going to do it with my mother and daughter bat mitzvah program. Not there because it's too small, but I'm arranging another one. And this time they're the ladies. They actually, I found out only after about the geula ladies who actually had their tambourine and they had singing and dancing. And it was certainly something that I think that if we bring in the energy and the power of simcha, our own geula will come as well. So Emet Hashem, we should just be blessed with that. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidishanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu la'afresh chala min ha'isa, harei zu chala. In the zechus of the mitzvah of Afrashas chala, that we should really all be zeiche to the geula, to simchas, to Yeshuas, to refuahs, for all of Klal Yisrael. And Emet Hashem, that also really in the zechus for all of those who gave up their lives and that were taken from us through the Holocaust, to whichever way it was being, for all those that have given. And that Emet Hashem, together we are going to greet Mashiach very, very soon. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for learning with us. Thank you helping us all to fill our buckets. And Emet Hashem, we'll all be ready to be pouring some of the inspiration out to share with ourselves, that's for sure, and certainly with anybody else around us. Okay, good Shabbos and good Chodesh.
Thank you everybody so much. Thank you. Bye. Good night.
Pleasure.
Good night.
Pleasure.
Thank you.